Hi everyone, I'm Candace the Shaman.
And I am Spirit Medium Jenn.
Here is a mini clip of our episode. If you would like to watch more, you can click on the link below.
Don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing videos from our podcast.
I'm excited about really exploring this subject, Jenn, because you've been talking about, you're like, I just feel this tremendous prompting from Spirit that we need to go deeper with this, that we need to talk about, kind of reiterate what we talked about in one of our first episodes about being human in the Aquarian age and what this awakening means and what this feels like, because a lot of people are experiencing so much anxiety and they feel ungrounded with this energy. They don't have really a lot of understanding, and so this was something that you felt we should bring to the forefront.
It just feels like there's so much awareness, so much opening, so many people becoming aware that there's so much more than the rat race of life, or there's so much more than kind of just like going in pilot mode throughout life. And I think that social media has really been such a positive thing, but I feel like it's also been a huge distraction. And it's almost like this pendulum of like all the things social media has to offer. It almost feels like there's this balancing back of like reminding people like, hey, am I really connected? I've had conversations with many friends who are like, I'm taking a break on social media right now. And I've been able to love really connecting back in. Maybe I want to read a book, or maybe instead of watching a TV show, we go for a walk at night. And it's almost like we think about what people experienced, like my mother. When she was my age, they were outside a lot. They were in nature. They were reading books, where nowadays the generation is like, it's all about TikTok and social media. And it's so interesting how our go-to in life is to kind of numb ourselves out instead of saying like, hey, what if I didn't have to numb myself out? Or what if I didn't make the world so negative that I didn't want to be fully engaged in life? And I think that a lot of us are coming into this space where there's so much good with it, but there's also so much mindless scrolling. And it's like this awakening is like, hey, what if there's more? What if I'm not feeling connected to the world? And how can I move forward? And of course, this is part of the Aquarian age. This is part of what the next 2000 years is going to be upholding and really moving into 2000, give or take, of this sense of like, we're here. What an honor it is to be here. And are we fully making the most of it, versus are we just being captive or letting the world run us instead of us participating in co-creation?
This is going to be one of the biggest challenges, is navigating through the information age and the Great Awakening. What is centered in truth and love, and what is centered in fear and distraction and chaos? Because everything is going to be thrown at us at once. There are different times of evolution where we focus on different areas, where we are trying to transmute our physical experience or our emotional experience. Different ages where we explore these lower chakras and really came into the awakening and the fullness of those areas of our lives. The Aquarian age is going to be overcoming the mind. The mind is going to be your biggest challenge in the Aquarian age.
And we see that already. We see
yes,
a lot of people with, with depression, suicide rates are up. I deal a lot with that. And during sessions, there's a lot more medication that people are taking.
Mm-hmm.
The mind can feel like such a plague. But if we're not aware of this transition or this change or this energy shifting to the mind, of course we're going to feel distraught and alone and so heavy, unless we're able to look at it in a positive perspective of like, wow, in this lifetime here and now, I get to learn about the mind and how powerful the mind is in creation. And so we can shift that perspective versus, oh, it's all heavy, it's all the mind, it's this mental game. It's like, if we could pull back and ride the wings of the eagle and see it from this whole perspective of like, my higher self is here to learn this, it almost helps relieve the stress or relieve the pressure of what life has to offer.
Yes. And there's been an overemphasis on the importance of the mind, where it's like, okay, the mind is beautiful and it's not something that we should shame. Absolutely not. At the same time, there's been this over identification with the mind, believing that our mind has something to do with our worth and our identity. And even though we're not in an age where the physical emotional is going to be the absolute focus, but we are still experiencing a physical and emotional reality. We're multidimensional beings. So life will still pull you back in those areas. If there is a disconnect or an imbalance, because you're here to experience your multidimensional self while waking up into the remembrance of who you really are, which is spirit. So part of that unraveling is, it's not to shame the mind, because we don't want to shame it. We want to use it as a tool, right? That's what it's for. We are here to use the mind, and it's extremely powerful, and it will assist us in our co-creation of an ideal setting in our heart-centered lives. And if that's where we're centered, our energy is centered, it should support the vision of the heart. But at the same time, if we don't recognize, though, that we are still here to feel deeply, we are still here to embrace this physical body and the experience of having a physical body. If we don't recognize that, then what will happen is something will be pulled out. It's like it'll say, okay, well, now you need to focus on this area. But at the same time, we're born in an age where we get to really tackle the mind, because information is being open to us on many levels. It's not just physical knowledge and books and teachings in that sense. It's wisdom, it's information, it is information that has been covered up. Those things will be coming out and revealed to us, and we'll have to integrate that into our reality here in the world of Maya. So there are many, many layers to this. And so it's really expanding your perception of who you think you are, and really kind of broadening that, stretching it out, and saying, okay, well, obviously I'm not my body, and I'm not my emotions, and I'm not my mind. That is what I get to experience in this human vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
But I am the observer. I am the spirit that is riding in this amazing human journey. And I get to experience how to use the mind, how to use the physical body, how to embrace emotions, which is the color or the paint on my canvas of my life, my masterpiece. Is we want to embrace all those things. The soul longs for that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I think that is what people are kind of exploring, because they're like, gosh, I know there's something more. There's something more to life. There's a different way to perceive.
Well,
And
and how many people, yeah. And if you think about that, how many people have expressed since 2020, which we won't go into all of that, but since 2020, it has been this space of, like, almost everyone we've had on the podcast so far has mentioned how that was such a big tipping point for them of like, gosh, am I living my life? And also this energy of fear or of unknown is when we have the unknown, it's easy for us to step into fear and to fully be fearful of these things. And it's like, after so long, people are like, I can't be fearful to live. And like, how impactful was 2020 to so many people? And yes, there was a lot of both duality, right? But it almost is like what a launch or a springboard into this awakening, this self-awareness that so many people are discussing and are talking about now. And it's like, I can't live in fear. And our mind tends to want to go to fear naturally. That's part of this human journey. And it's like, I can't be fearful anymore. I have to keep going. I have to fulfill my soul's desire, my heart's calling, because what if it's over in the blink of an eye, which
Mhm.
it will be. And so there's this space of this awareness and this opening that I love you're talking about. It's just so beautifully like, of course, in the Aquarian age, we're going to have some huge experience. It's going to really bring people into this awareness. And we have, and we're still are going through it, but it's almost like it's just this door opening of saying, hey, let's discover this. Let's dive into
Oh,
this.
there was the door. Absolutely. You
Yeah.
know, that really was a turning point.
Yeah.
That pandemic has soul agreements with all of us, because when there is when there are traumatic things that happen, let's say hurricanes or earthquakes or pandemics, what it forces us to look at is the temporary nature of this reality of the third dimension, the fact that it's so temporal. You don't know, there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees about when you're leaving. You're not going to be here forever. And it's a journey, it's an experience. And what's interesting about it is that, though, even though this is inevitable, even though I don't believe in death, right? I don't believe in death. We are eternal beings. But I make a joke in the sense of that, but nobody gets out of here alive. Nobody does in the human journey. So it's like, okay, well, if that is the case, and we're talking about it because, the last pandemic we had was 100 years ago. So none of us were alive during that time. This is the first for everybody. We didn't know how this was going to affect our lives. We didn't know how this was going to change things, if we were going to get it, if we were going to go. Nobody knew. And so anytime when you are pressed up against the wall with this idea of death, then it really makes you go deep within yourself to figure out what is important. You can only get drunk so many days and try to numb yourself and run away from the inevitable. When this is outside, we couldn't go to work. We couldn't escape. There was, this was still there. And
Mhm.
so it forced everybody to take things to the next level. It's like, look, if you didn't do the spiritual work before, if you weren't really willing to ask these deep questions, now you're going to be facing these profound questions. Who are you really? And are you living your life to your absolute fullest? Are you aligned with your soul mission? All of these questions start coming up to the forefront so people can center themselves in a different reality, a different frequency. Um,
Yeah.
it was a huge shift. It was definitely a door. Like when I was talking about that time, it felt like literally the whole year of 2020, I felt like we were in the birth canal. Like we were just getting ready to be born into this new reality. And then it felt like 2021, the beginning of 2021, we actually arrived. That's what it felt like collectively. And a lot of workers and light workers and healers have been working on this for a long time. And so when we went through 2020 and 2021, it was like all the work that we did, we were midwifing others through this process of rebirth and awakening. And, a lot of people who were going without work and was really struggling, and people who were healers and light workers were actually getting work because people were reaching out to individuals who could help them navigate this journey that they were experiencing that they couldn't put into words, and all of these different emotions and epiphanies that people were having at the time. So
Yeah.
for me, it was just such a turning point, and there is no going back. We're never going to go back to that. There is we literally were able to get front row seats to the new age. And that's why it's such a wonderful, beautiful blessing. And even though it can be kind of scary at times and you don't know what to expect, but that's also what makes it so much more exciting.
Thank you for watching Modern Sages. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We are so grateful for your support. We have an Instagram account as well as on Facebook. We have our podcast, which is the Modern Sages podcast.
And we are so excited to launch our Gifts of Spirit classes in our Modern Sages Mystery School.
Absolutely. Oh, we're so excited. So we're going to link the information below in the show notes for more information about our mystery school.